Hey, good evening, everybody. Another edition of ATL Prime Sports. TC here with you in the ATL, along with JJ on the other side of the ATL, and our trusty and reliant producer, Wayne, in Memphis, home of his Memphis Tigers. So, guys, interesting, just interesting days during this holiday. This is our last show before Christmas, and actually the last show of the new year, and it's been fun so far.
Yeah,
it's been a great year. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing pretty good, but I can't say I'm as good as the new South Carolina head football coach Shane Beamer. The guy wants to be there. He had a wonderful press conference. Hats off, great hire, Oklahoma assistant, now in the SEC.
Yeah, I think he was there when what's that guy that was down in Florida when he was a coach at South Carolina, Spurrier. He was that assistant when Spurrier was there. He's got some connections there already.
Well, Shane Beamer, that's Frank Beamer's his father, and as you guys know, Frank was a fantastic coach at Virginia Tech, and if Shane even has half the career that his dad had at Virginia Tech. Yeah. This is going to be an outstanding hire. I think it is an outstanding hire. I think they hit a home run with it. I don't know. South Carolina doesn't have a fantastic football history. They've never won an SEC title before. They came close under Steve Spurrier, had a lot of success with him, had some success with Lou Holtz. But, and then, of course, they got off to a great start with Muschamp, but for 3 seasons, then it just fell apart on them. And guys, it's a tough place, I think, to win. You're competing with Georgia to the west, and JJ, as you know, Clemson is an in-state rival.
Yeah,
you play them every year. That is a recruiting tool, but it also is a hurting tool as well. So it's kind of to each his own with that game right there. Hopefully things are back to normal and you get to play in that game next year, because that's why Gunnar Stockton said he came to South Carolina to prove that he could beat Clemson. So unbelievable recruit there. Hopefully he gets to stay. Man, this is going to be a loaded show. That was a unbelievable hire, in my opinion, folks. I think South Carolina AD knocked it out the park.
I would have never guessed it, but I think they did good.
It was unbelievable. I mean, and let's face it, South Carolina, for them to be successful in football, they've got to recruit the state of Georgia, and they got to recruit the state of Florida heavily. There is talent in South Carolina, but there's not enough to compete at a high level, at a national level. You're competing with in-state Clemson. And Clemson, as you know, they go to Georgia to get players a la Trevor Lawrence. They go to Florida to get players. You guys all know this, and our audience, I'm sure, knows it too. This is a tough job.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, now that Coastal Carolina's on the map, they may have to compete with them some.
No, they're not competing with the same players as Coastal Carolina, but that's a great segue into the next one, because I saw, Wayne, your deal there on Twitter, and you texted me, and I had a busy weekend about chicken football. I did see the chicken football against Brigham Young after my son graduated from West Georgia with an early childhood education degree on Saturday. That was quite a scene, gentlemen. I don't know if you probably saw pictures, JJ, on my Facebook account. Wayne, do you have Facebook?
No.
Well,
I got enough social media.
Because, I don't really put that kind of stuff on Twitter for numerous reasons. But, Wayne, I'm going to send you some pictures of the graduation. The way they did it, the university did it, was in a first-class manner. They had us all spread out at the football stadium. And, my son went there for 4 years, and they have a highly successful program. Yeah. I never went to a college football game, and after being in there, I'm going to, if I get a chance, hopefully I'll be broadcasting college football, so I won't have as much of an opportunity. But, JJ, I tell you, that's a really nice place. And, Wayne, it is. Very nice.
Okay. Very good.
Facilities out
there. But anyways, back to the chickens. That was JJ. You hit that right on the head. That was the college football game of the year.
Yep, it really was.
I said it on my Facebook feed. I really thought it was going to be a great game. Two teams leaving it all out on the field, folks, for a New Year's Six berth. Hats off to both ADs for getting this game together. Everybody had to back out of Coastal Carolina, which was expected to be a bigger game because we thought Liberty was going to beat their ACC opponent last week in NC State, and they fell short. So what happens? They get on the phone. BYU, you said you'll play anybody anywhere? Yes, we will. Amazing. Come on to Conway. Okay. Yeah. They did. 72 hours later, they're playing football, and it was a pretty good game. Yeah. But this game doesn't happen in any other season. I give credit where credit is due. BYU had no business playing this game, and they did. So hats off to both programs. They put on a heck of a show for the country on Saturday evening.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, like you just said, JJ. They just finalized the game a couple of days before the game, and it was a great game. I thought Coastal Carolina was a little dirty in the game. That last play at the half, gentlemen, doing that to the quarterback, what they did, causing an almost brawl, was unacceptable.
I agree.
It was almost, causing almost a brawl like that is just unacceptable in my opinion. BYU came back and they lost the game by 1 yard. And guys, that ending of that game reminds me of when the Titans lost the Super Bowl to the Rams by a yard.
Dyson, right at the goal line. Folks, that was right here in Atlanta. Played at the Georgia Dome. That was
right, and it was a yard. I mean, he completed the pass, and if he might have waited a second longer, it might have been a touchdown or have been incomplete altogether. But wow, what'd you guys think of that quarterback? I had not had a chance to see him until Saturday. The BYU quarterback, he's
Zach Wilson. I told you earlier in the year, this guy's pretty good. He's got the
really
size,
good.
He's got the arm. He can make plays, and he's at BYU, so you know he's going to be a smart quarterback. They've put quarterbacks in the NFL before. They got good history at that position. So I like Zach Wilson, but boy, I want to talk about Gunnar McCall and that Coastal Carolina offense. It's a glorified triple option. They spread you out this way. They can run the ball that way. They can throw the ball this way. It's extremely difficult, and I don't think this team's going anywhere. If they can start getting some recruits there, who knows? Maybe they'll be the next Cincinnati in the next couple of years because I don't see Cincinnati losing. I wish two teams from – maybe they will. Maybe they'll let them slide in as a New Year's Six at large. Who knows? I don't think they'll do it this year. But, boy, hats off. That was just a heck of a game on both sides. Wilson, everybody got it done, the coaches. And it was really clean until that last
Yeah, right. You know what, guys? I need to let us know before we go on. We've got Dave Cohen coming on at 8:15. He'll be coming on in the next 5 minutes or so. He'll join us here on ATL Prime Sports. Dave is the voice of Georgia State football, basketball, and baseball. And we really have a special treat for you at 8:35 coming up on the program. Dr. Sapp, a Michigan football historian who I have communicated with quite a bit on Twitter lately. We're going to talk Michigan football a little bit in depth, the Harbaugh situation, what he thinks may happen in Michigan. We'll talk all stories all over college football, just not Michigan. But I want to let you know. Also, you can reach JJ at JJ1, JJ Get You One on Twitter. You can reach us at ATL Prime Sports at Twitter. You can reach Wayne at Twitter, RWY Jr. At Junior Twitter, and you can reach me at Corder Todd on Twitter. So you can reach us all on social media. We'll respond to you. But I want to let everybody know what we have coming up in the show momentarily. But let's go back to that ball game. Like you said, JJ, game of the year. I think this quarterback for BYU can play at the next level. I think he can do it. But you mentioned Coastal Carolina's quarterback. Wow, he's tough as nails. And then Coastal Carolina's head coach, he's not going to be there long, guys.
Well, unfortunately.
Schools going to pick him up immediately.
He'll be moving up.
He'll be moving up and moving on out, as they say. What's that sitcom? Moving on up, moving on out. It was a long time ago. What is it, the Jeffersons?
Moving
on up. He'll be moving on up to another apartment high in the sky, wherever that school is.
Well, you know what? Memphis is familiar with that kind of situation too, because a lot of our coaches get plucked by those bigger schools.
We know this. Guys, should we start with the topics tonight, or TC, you want a final thought?
I was going to say, when Dave comes on, we'll just talk college football until he comes on. When he comes on, we'll just go to the NFL, and then when Dr. Sapp goes on, we'll back and go to college football.
Right.
So we kind of switched gears a little bit tonight. I had some technical issues and just came on just in time. And issues. Pure 2020.
Pure 2020.
It's exactly what it is. You know what, JJ? Speaking of Georgia and the hat that's on your head, where do you think they can go bowl-wise? Because you and I have mentioned this off the air. I think each of us are thinking Peach Bowl in Cincinnati if Cincinnati doesn't get in.
That's what it's looking like. If Georgia wins on Saturday, it looks like they're going to play Missouri. The Vanderbilt game's still very much up in the air. The SEC, I'm sure, will not have another game on the SEC championships playing. I'm almost certain of it. I can't report it. I'm just going to say it's my opinion, but we'll see. But we have Dave Cohen on now. I'm going to hold that thought right quick. I want to talk some Georgia State football with Dave Cohen, voice of the Panthers, joining us right now. Dave, good to see you, man.
I'm here. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Doing fantastic.
Well, I know it's Georgia State. Well, since the last time we spoke, has had a couple of big wins in football, especially in basketball. Let's talk about the football wins. Ending the year on 2 straight victories. 5-4. Any word on a bowl game for the Georgia State Panthers?
Well, no. Like you said, the end of the final game of the regular season, actually the final 2 games of the regular season, a win at South Alabama and the win at home against Georgia Southern, both fantastic wins to get to, like you said, 5-4, and so now it's really kind of a wait and see for Georgia State. The Coastal Carolina win, I hope, might be in Georgia State's favor. That win over BYU might possibly take them to a win outside the Sunbelt Bowl tie-ins.
Yeah.
If that happens, and all 5 Sunbelt Bowl tie-in bowl games play, because I saw the LA Bowl canceled.
Yeah.
So that's another one that's by the wayside. Not that affected the Sunbelt at all, but, in this climate, who knows? But if Coastal Carolina does get a bowl up and outside of the Sunbelt Bowl tie-in games, that could bode well for Georgia State as we sit back and wait. Not everybody in the league obviously played the same amount of games. We played 9. And, after the Georgia State-Georgia Southern game, Georgia Southern had 2 more games to go. They beat Florida Atlantic this past Saturday, and they still have Appalachian State to play. And I think that, obviously, as you and I have talked about, or we've talked about, Coastal Carolina, Appalachian State, Louisiana Lafayette, Georgia Southern are all 4 of those teams. They're going to get a bowl bid, depending upon which ones are available. So if there's 5, that could bode well for Georgia State, and as I said, it bodes well if Coastal Carolina gets a bid outside the Sunbelt 5 tie-in.
Dave, before we move on to basketball, you got to talk about the performance of Brown, the quarterback who threw a career-high 372 against Georgia Southern, their bid old rival, to win the game and potentially have a shot at a bowl. I know that like 10 bowls have already canceled this season, so the spots are going to be slim. But if it's the last game of the year, it's a sweet way to go out for the quarterback and the team.
No question. And as we've talked about, Cornelius Brown is, a redshirt freshman. He only appeared briefly in 4 games last year. And so nobody really knew quite what to expect coming into this crazy season that we've all experienced. But for the most part, it's been at times a roller coaster season for him as he has learned basically on the run. since filling in, taking over and inheriting that job from Dan Ellington. But I think overall he's had a pretty good season. There were times, as we've talked about, when the offense was clicking and scoring points, like at Arkansas State, the defense couldn't stop anybody. And when the defense was playing really well, like it was the night they were up at Appalachian State, and took a lead into the fourth quarter, the offense couldn't produce but one touchdown and a couple of field goals. So there were weeks like that where it was really either a really high or a really low, depending on which side of the football you were watching. But I think for the most part overall, again, learning on the run, literally. And, I thought he showed a lot of poise for a redshirt freshman who really had not played. It's really down to a two-man job with Michele Colasurdo, his backup. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a quarterback battle we have going into next season, depending on what next season looks like. But I thought that Cornelius had a really good season. When you step back and look at the overall body of work during the 9-game schedule, I think he actually performed really well. And personally, I thought he performed a lot better than I anticipated. Only able to go on the brief 4 appearances I saw from him last year.
You're listening to Dave Cohen right here on ATL Prime Sports, voice of the Georgia State Panthers football, basketball, baseball. Let's stick with football for a second, Dave. We mentioned Brown, his success is, and you mentioned him in the battle next year. What's spring football going to be like moving forward? Has Georgia State or the NCAA given any word on spring football going into 2021?
No, not that I've heard. I mean, as you know, we're still trying to navigate the end of the season and, what a bowl schedule could look like. I don't think anybody has really thought that far ahead with what it's going to look like. And to be honest with you, anybody that would be in a position, think about what it would look like that far down the line, should be focused on college basketball and whether or not we're going to be able to play an NCAA tournament of some semblance this year. You guys read they moved everything from regional sites to Indianapolis. The question now is, do you take 68? Do you take 64? What the number will be? How they're going to figure out who gets where? So there's a lot of questions to be answered before we get to spring football next year. Hopefully, there's all this talk about the vaccine,
right?
Which is great. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's a little too early to just come out and say, well, once the vaccine is here, we're just going to go back to being normal to what it was.
Right.
Have you ever tried to vaccinate over 300 million Americans?
No,
it's going to take
I've
a little
never
while.
done
And a lot of people don't want the vaccine. So there's going to be
Right.
some roads to cross. We got to hope best case scenario it's done in May, June. I want to be positive about it, but you're right, Dave. Let's transition over to basketball in Georgia State. What a start this season. 3-1, a 4 overtime win over Georgia Tech, the win over Toccoa Falls. Unfortunately lost to Mercer and they defeated Charlotte. Dave, they're averaging 93 points a game. Holy smokes. I know it's inflated a little bit, but the offense is cooking. You got 4 guys in double figures this year. You can still win the state title. You've got Mercer coming up again. And even, the Georgia Tech even beat Kentucky, who right now you guys should want to schedule Kentucky.
Well, we were supposed to play at Kentucky this year.
Right.
As we were your Michigan Wolverines.
Right. Thanks for bringing that up. Well, hey, we're Michigan doing pretty good in basketball. If we talk football, we got to do another program. But
yeah. I was thinking back to the Georgia Tech game in 38 years of being behind the mic for Georgia State. I was trying to remember, have I ever called one game that spanned technically over 2 days? Even the trips to Hawaii that I have been fortunate enough to make were all on one day because they started, if I remember correctly, well after midnight East Coast time.
wow.
So technically we were into the next day. This game started on a Wednesday and ended on a Thursday. I don't know that I've ever done another game that spanned over 2 days.
Wow, yeah.
Unbelievable. And I was listening to your call late night, and my wife got mad at me because I had the app up, and I didn't realize that was the first 3 overtime game, yet alone 4 overtime game in Georgia State basketball history. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, again, I was, well, literally while we're on the air that night, I'm thinking back. Now, I know we've played a number of double overtimes. I couldn't remember a triple, and obviously I couldn't remember a quadruple. That's a game that would definitely stick out. But it was, it was one of those events. It was a great game. The Georgia State fans obviously were excited, and this whole "we run this state" thing, which I don't put a whole lot into that. And here's why. Because people forget that in mid-March, Georgia Southern came to Atlanta not once, but twice, and handed our you-know-what to us.
Right.
Once late in the regular season, and they eliminated us in the Sunbelt Conference tournament. So, again, the win over Georgia Tech was great. And what's great about it is that because of the virus, they were kind of in a position where they almost had to schedule us for convenience. It is a 3-game series over the span
of that.
Right, because under normal circumstances, they would not schedule Georgia State in men's basketball unless they really knew that they could beat us. And see, when you schedule 3 and 4 games, well, they don't know how good we're going to be or how bad we may be in 3 years, but the game is on the schedule. You got to play it.
Yeah.
So they had to play us during a stretch right now where, you know what, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
But we found out a short time later after beating Toccoa Falls on our trip down 75 to Macon, Mercer's pretty damn good too.
Yeah.
They really are.
If you want to know the truth, Mercer might be the best team in the state right now.
Well, you're going to get another crack at them.
Yeah, that's our next game. We got a nice little break here with finals, but we play them again December the 16th. That's a good basketball team.
Yeah, Memphis has had to play them years past, so I'm familiar with Mercer, even though other schools may not be.
Dave, what do you think of our producer's Christmas hat there? I believe it's got Memphis on it, man.
It does.
That's got to pass the hat protocol.
Yeah. Georgia State's mascot Pounce has a blue Santa suit and a blue hat like that.
All right.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Which under normal circumstances, if he was roaming the crowd at the sports arena for a home game, we would see. I don't know that we'll see it this year, at least in person.
Dave, one more question before we wrap up. Are you going to go to the high school football finals there at Georgia State Stadium? Does that interfere with your schedule or anything?
I'm not sure if I'll be there. If I'm not working it, which right now I'm not working it, I don't know that I would go down there, but there's a possibility. Are you going to be there?
We'll let you know if we go.
Are you going to be there?
I'm thinking about it, and I'm hoping I'm working it. It's probably an outside shot. So I might go as a spectator to see some of these teams.
Well, how's your team doing that you cover?
What's that?
How's the team that you cover doing?
They lost on Friday night. A couple of teams that I do, they all lost on Friday night. There's two teams left in the area, but the other fellas take care of that. So, and the NFHS network may pick me up for a game. We'll see. We're down now to the quarterfinals, so we'll see. It'd be great, but if not, I'll go down as a spectator. I'm interested in. My son's high school, River Ridge, is rated 5th in the state. They're playing the number 1 state in the team in the state, Lee County, just down the street from my house on Friday night.
Okay.
So that is a tough ticket to get. My kid, I asked him, I said, "You get tickets?" He said, "Yes, I got me one." There's no ticket for Dad, so.
Yeah. Well, Georgia State Stadium, Center Park Credit Union Stadium, Georgia State Stadium, should be a great facility to host that event.
Yeah. Should be.
Outdoors,
spread them apart.
Right. There should be plenty of parking available in the old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium lot in and around the construction that's going on down there, as well as some other lots that are in and around the stadium. But as long as it's not too cold out, it should be a great weekend to bring all those high school programs into Georgia State's football stadium. And listen, what a great recruiting tool for the Georgia State coaches to get all these teams into the stadium, and you don't have to do anything to bring them in. That they've earned the right to be there.
Right, that's right, Dave. We got to end it on that. Give us the information on your next call for our listeners.
Well, our next call will be on the basketball side, December 16th. Mercer will come up 85.
Right.
I'll be on ESPN Plus for that ball game, as well as our Georgia State Athletics mobile app. And then for football, wait and see. We will wait and see. If there is a bowl game, then the radio crew will be there.
All right, Dave, thanks a lot. Our next show is going to be after the holidays, unless we get one in between. We've got some stuff coming up in our lives, so it might be our last show of the year.
All right. Well, if I don't see you guys again, it's been great. We'll see you on the other side of 2020 into 2021, and you all have a great holiday.
Merry Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Yep.
All righty.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State.
Don't take it easy.
Of the Georgia State Panthers here on ATL Prime Sports. As always, thank you, Dave. And guys, it's been great having Dave on this year. It's been a lot of fun. Let's transition back over, if we can, for a second. Dr. Sapp will be on in about 6 or 7 minutes. Let's talk about. Let's continue about Georgia and their bowl destination possibilities. There, JJ. We mentioned the Peach Bowl playing Cincinnati. Gosh, they could go anywhere at this point.
They really could. This is a big matchup this weekend against a Missouri team that's actually played pretty well as of late. When Georgia had this game originally postponed to this date, Missouri wasn't playing that well. They were about a 25-point favorite going into the week. Now they've gotten all their COVID players, most of their COVID players back. They're going to be almost at full strength for this game, and they have nothing to lose. So Georgia, one thing that struck me, and I went back and had to prove it to myself, Georgia has been in the college football playoff top 10 every week since 2017.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's impressive. In Alabama,
they're one of only 3 teams to do that. The other 2, obviously, Bama and Clemson. So,
right. You know what? I got to ask you a question about that, JJ, and I want you to chime in, Wayne. There's been a lot of national pundits and people that cover the game that are very knowledgeable about it have kind of said Georgia doesn't belong where they're at in the rankings. And personally, when I look at it, they set them right where they belong, in my opinion. I mean, I like them to beat Oklahoma, especially now that JT's quarterbacking. I think they're better than Coastal Carolina. I mean, I think they're better than Iowa State. I think they're, are they better than Indiana? I'd like to see that game, probably. But, I think they're exactly where they're at. I mean, their 2 losses were number 1 and number 4, 5. Yeah. So that's what I think. What do you think, Wayne?
I would say to any school or anybody that doubts the strength of Georgia, put them on your schedule. Find out.
JJ, they said the reason was recruiting, that they're getting the pass a little bit because of the recruiting. I just don't believe that.
Well, I'll tell you what. In a couple years, we'll see a mega game with Georgia when they travel out to Oklahoma to play the Sooners.
Yeah, but that doesn't have to do with this year. But I understand where you're coming.
They're scheduling the big boys to open it up. They play Clemson next year to open things up. Georgia's trying to improve that out of conference schedule extremely well. And I think they're right where they're supposed to be. I really.
That has nothing to do with this year and this year's team. Though I get where you're coming from. I like where you're coming from.
But you get what I'm just saying for Wayne's comment about the scheduling down the road and back to being in the top 10, I think they should be right there as well. I mean, you look at the 2 losses, they had Alabama in the third quarter, folks, by 4 points. And then we saw Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith put on a third quarter show. So, I'm not upset with the voters putting Georgia in the top 10. They know let's face it. You and I, we had this discussion off air. I think they would beat Indiana. Now that may be
it'd be an interesting. Right now, they definitely will beat Indiana.
Right,
Indiana doesn't have their starting quarterback.
Correct. Without Penix, correct.
Without Penix, no doubt.
Miami, that's a question mark. Miami's pretty athletic. They've actually gotten a lot better this year. But I think Georgia still squeaked by with JT Daniels. So I think you're right. I think they're right there where they need to be. And again, they had a 4-point lead on Alabama. They had a lead on 14-0 on Florida.
Florida and fell apart.
It fell apart. And they were ravaged with injury. LeCount, who's coming back this week. Jordan Davis, who's coming back this week. Rochester, who was lost for the season. That was all right before the Florida game. So you'd really like to, as a Georgia fan, you want to rewind the tape and play the game with JT Daniels, but you can't do that. Florida beat us.
I asked myself one question when I look at Georgia compared to the teams below them. Who has the better defense? And there's no doubt in my mind who has the better defense is Georgia. Now, if the offense, of course, is still – they can run the football, and if they do, look out. But, can JT be consistent? That's the big question because Oklahoma, they have a good quarterback. Iowa State, they have a good quarterback. We all know that stuff. So, it'll be interesting. But I would favor Georgia in all those games. Would I favor them over A&M? That's probably a toss-up. What, Cincinnati? I would probably favor Georgia over Cincinnati right now just because of the depth. But I would love to see the game. And it would be outstanding. If it's in the Peach Bowl, holy smokes. We got Dr. Sapp, a Michigan historian, coming up. We're going to talk. Actually, he's coming up right now. Wow, the timing was absolutely perfect as we have Dr. Sapp on. Dr. Sapp, hello, a Michigan Wolverine. Hello to you, a Michigan football historian. I'm Todd Corder. That's JJ and our producer over there with the Memphis Christmas Santa Claus hat. Wayne, how are you, sir?
Can you hear us, Dr. Sapp?
Tell him to hit the mic. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? He might not hit the mic. JJ, let me see. Oh gosh, I wish I had
Dr. Sapp with us.
See if he's still with us here.
Well, he's on video. We'll get him here in a second. We've had some technical.
We got him visually. We don't have him audibly.
Right.
We don't have him auto. Maybe he can hit the auto button. That's what it is. I guarantee you that's what it is. Can he hit the auto button? Let me see. I'll send him a note on Twitter.
Okay.
Hang on, I'll be right back.
Well,
I had technical problems, so I had to go to my phone tonight, and I'll send him a note.
In the meantime, while TC's pulling up Dr. Sapp and getting in contact with our guest, we'll bring up a little preface. Michigan has not been the Wolverines that we have grown accustomed to seeing. The 10-win seasons Jim Harbaugh came out and had 3 of them. We just haven't seen the consistency that started out. And here we are asking all these questions, and we have Dr. Sapp on. Dr. Sapp, can you hear us yet? Looks like we're still having trouble getting with him.
I sent him a note to do his mic. Is there a way we can mic check? Can you do a mic? Your microphone?
He may be reading right now. We'll give him a couple seconds to respond here.
Yeah,
but basically, I was just kind of filling in our listeners, TC, on the lack of consistency we've seen with the Wolverines this year. We're not used to seeing the same Jim Harbaugh coach teams. It seems like there's a little lost in translation on maybe. What do you think? And we'll ask Dr. Sapp his opinion if he can hear us. Dr. Sapp, can you hear us yet?
He can't hear us yet. It's a mic.
All right.
He'll be back. So if we sent him a note. I wish I sent him a note on Messenger. So hopefully he'll be. Somebody looks like it's going to help him maybe with his mic. Mic check. Wayne, can you point to his mic? That might help.
Yeah.
Well, if he looks up at you.
Yeah.
So anyway, is all you can do is laugh. It's 2020. So when he looks up, tell him to check his mic.
Microphone.
Yeah, microphone.
Check your microphone.
Microphone.
Microphones.
All right. Check your mic.
I got nothing.
Now
All right.
we can
We
hear
heard
you
you.
now.
Wait, you got it.
We can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Man, we
I
heard
can
that
hear
for a
you.
minute.
We can hear him. He just can't hear me back. Oh no. See, I doubt
Yeah.
Zap. I can hear you guys.
Let's see.
Can he hear us?
Let's
Maybe
see.
you can send him a note. Anyway, JJ, talking about Michigan, the big story is John U. Bacon was saying on Twitter today that by the end of the week, we should know what Jim Harbaugh's status is for next year. Because I've said it before, I'll say it again. That he's not going to be. He's not going to have. He's either going to have his contract extended, one, or two. They're going to mutually part ways. So he's not going to go in his final season with not without a contract and become a lame duck coach. So that's not going to happen. And John U. Bacon said today on Twitter, we should definitely have something finalized this week. My gut feeling, and this is all it is a gut feeling, is before the pandemic started, they were going to sign him to an extension. The AD wanted to sign it. They put it off. The pandemic happened. The season's been brutal. And now I think they're going to sign him. I do, to a 3-year extension is my guess. It may not be quite the money he was making. He wants to stay. They've got a 5-star recruit coming in. And this kid is saying to everybody, hold the brakes, push off. We're going to we're going to be just fine, and Harbaugh is going to be here next year. Now, it's either that or he resigns and we go to the NFL. I'm sorry, JJ, I was long-winded. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was going to be very long-winded as well. You basically hit it on the head. I think there are two outcomes. I think it's either this or that, and you mentioned them both. He either gets a small extension for less than what he's making now, or he's going to flip over to the other side and go back to the NFL. There's going to be some teams calling him about that job. Maybe Atlanta. The Falcons have an opening. Maybe when they get their GM, maybe Harbaugh's a candidate. Who knows? So there is a couple options there, but I'm with you, TC. I really think Harbaugh's going to stay at Michigan. I think you can chalk this 2020 season up as hey, you know what? They didn't have a spring practice. They weren't able to implement the game plan early enough and often enough. And we had Dr. Sapp on. Are you able to hear us, Dr. Sapp?
Are you able to hear us? Can you hear us? He
No.
can't hear us. He's still got his mic muted. Now he came back off. He might be having some internet issues. This is 2020.
This is 2020.
Go ahead, JJ. Go ahead and keep finishing your point. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're trying to bring it back, but I think that's much of the latter. It's either this or that. I'm leaning towards he'll get a contract extension. Like I was saying, no spring practice. A lot less time recruiting, especially this year. We have a signing day next week, folks.
Yeah.
Just a couple days away. We got a signing day. We got an SEC championship. We got.
You know what? Can I stop you there on the signing day? It's the 16th of December. That's why this puppy is going to be resolved this week. That's why it's either A, he stays and we got an extension, or B, he moves on. And I just think he's staying. There's just no indication that he's leaving. I'm not getting indication from him or the university. And they still want him. And yes, this season's a disaster. We mentioned it. They're 2-4. Will they play Ohio State this week? My goodness, I hope so. They're a 30-point underdog. And JJ, you said on Twitter today, I can't remember them being a 30-point underdog. Was it 40 years ago? I mean, it was longer than that.
It's unbelievable. I was looking at the point spreads, and I honestly said, okay, 18-19, it's a rivalry game. They're not going to do 29 and a hook, folks.
And it's
unbelievable,
now.
mind blown. I don't think they'll cover that. I think Michigan will get up. I think if Harbaugh, if they can play, because that's still a big discussion, and then that'll open up a whole other can of worms for discussion on Ohio State in or out. Are they going to talk about expanding the playoffs to get Ohio State in? What are they going to do? So this is a huge game. All eyes will be looking at it. It may not be pretty, but it's still the game. And it's still a huge rivalry.
Well, it is, but
this is the type of game.
Wayne, what would you do?
Hold on, let me make a preference here. Remember, Harbaugh, when he is a 20-plus point underdog, his record is unbelievable.
Remember the USC game a long time ago?
That's exactly what I was talking about.
And he was like a 40-point underdog and then won the game?
Correct. And that's my point. When this guy, and I'm going to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, and hopefully we can get Dr. Sapp in here because I really want to hear his opinion on this. I just think Jim Harbaugh wants to do this thing. I don't see a Jim Harbaugh that's discouraged. I see a Jim Harbaugh that's, I'm not doing that. Well, I'm going to figure out what I need to do to get this job done.
You know what? I agree with you. I don't see him just up and quitting the situation. You hear the media, the sports media, a lot of the sports media folks, he's given up. His demeanor is different on the sidelines. This and that, they're reading way, way too much in it. What they're thinking is, we want him gone. We paid him $9 million a year to not win 8, 9, 10 games a year. We paid him $9 million a year to win the playoff, to get in the playoff, to win the Big Ten, to possibly play for the title, and etc. And you know what? Listen, you guys know this, and Wayne, you know this. Look how many years it took Dabo Swinney at Clemson to get the train going before he won it all. It was year 8 before he won it all. And I mean, 8 or 9, whatever it was, close enough.
And to piggyback off your point, it took Saban 8 or 9 years too. It took Saban 8 or 9 years at Alabama, so and before he ever got his title. So it takes time.
Yeah.
I mean, it just takes time, Wayne. And you're going to run somebody off. Who are you going to get?
Now, that's another question. I really think that Harbaugh is going to not only stay, but I think they signed the extension. And the main reason is because I feel like, and I'm going out on a limb again, I think they're going to beat Ohio State this weekend.
Oh,
what's that?
Whoa,
hey,
Dr. Sapp, can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Hear you? Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? We see you. Undo your mic. Your mic.
I hear him too. Well, maybe we can ask the questions through the chat.
Yeah, through the chat. Yeah, right.
Wow.
Still no audio. That's
man. I really want to ask him. I really want to ask him about this rivalry game, as I am a Michigan fan.
He's dressed for it. I think it's my work computer that's not likely WebEx. Wayne, can he call? Can he call?
Yeah, if you give him the phone number, he can call.
Text me the phone number, Wayne, and I will send it to him on Twitter.
Okay.
Hang on a second, folks. Bear with us.
I'll just text him the phone number.
Yeah, Wayne, our producer Wayne's great. He's going to text the phone number over. In the meantime, TC, you want to jump over to the NFL right quick and cover it while we get Dr. Sapp figured out?
You know what? The college situation, if we can stick with it, because it would be, I mean, it would behoove us to stick with it. Just because of the situation, the game this weekend. Wayne just said it. He thinks Michigan's going to pull the upset. You know what? God bless you, Wayne. I'm a Michigan alumnus, but I don't think no way in bells are they pulling off the upset.
All right. Well,
they don't have the personnel. This Ohio State team, if they get beat this weekend, oh my gosh, that ruins not only the Big Ten, the playoff, but they lose to the team up north, as they call it, and oh my goodness.
Well, that would really open up the door for an A&M to possibly make a jump into the playoffs. They've played extremely well going down the stretch. They lost to Alabama. They got blown out by Alabama.
Wow.
If that upset does occur Saturday at noon, that would open the door for maybe a Coastal Carolina or Cincinnati to get in the playoffs.
I don't think Coastal Carolina's got
I don't think so either, unless Cincinnati loses, of course. Like I said, I've said that at the beginning of the show. I think it'll be Cincinnati. But if there is an upset that is brewing, and I believe the game's in Columbus, so it gives it that much more of an absurd shot. Wayne, you may want to put a bet down. I bet you $1 would win you $100. I bet you that's how big of an underdog they are.
Well, you know what?
A straight up bet.
Everybody was picking Wisconsin to beat Indiana this last weekend too, and that didn't happen.
True.
Right.
You know, Indiana came in there and beat them, and I thought Indiana had a better team, even though they were playing with a different quarterback.
Yeah, they played extremely well with I believe it's Tuttle is their quarterback. He took it to he took the reins and played extremely well. So
I also think it helped. I also think it helps that Wisconsin was overrated.
they may have been.
Wisconsin had
they had their COVID issues.
You know what? I really can't argue with the fact that he said overrated. But this year's been such an unusual year in college football, man. I mean, look at the madness that's going on with the coronavirus. And see, Michigan last week, they had 12 COVID cases. The president of their university is an infectious disease doctor. Ohio State went and played anyway with 23 players that were missing, 3 starting offensive linemen, and still spanked Michigan State by 40. Yep. Michigan only missed 12 players. Of course, we don't know. They might have missed more of those that come in contact. They didn't divulge that information. So they might have been missing that many players. They could have played 2, in my opinion, if that's the case. And I don't know, so I'm not going to say they could have played. But Ohio State is doing everything possible to play. The question is Michigan. But I think when you look at it, Ohio State has different ramifications on playing than Michigan. There's no question about it. And Dr. Jim Borchers, who played football at Ohio State, gentlemen, they really refer to him a lot in terms of if it's quote-unquote safe to play, where Michigan University, they're going to rely on their president. And I understand why. He's an infectious disease doctor. They may have a lot more conservative approach than Ohio State. And I know a lot of people are going to criticize Michigan for that. But unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get Dr. Sapp on here. I sent him a note. If he does, great. If he doesn't, we're so sorry. But in the meantime, we can transition off that subject as we have beat it to death.
Yeah.
So let's go to pro football. JJ, what's the score on the Pittsburgh-Washington game? Is it done?
Let's see if they did. Washington pulled the upset. And there's no undefeated teams in the NFL. The Redskins, 23-17. I wanted to break it. That's why I wanted to transition to the NFL. The Redskins have clinched a place in first place. The NFC
tied first place with the Giants.
Right, they're tied right now. Absolutely,
right, 5-7. Yay!
So it's unbelievable. This NFC East and the. And hey,
Dr. Sapp, JJ.
I said it on our friend of the show, John Margo's podcast yesterday. Margo's podcast. I thought this was a for sure win.
That's what for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Dr. Sapp, are you with us, sir?
Well, I can hear you guys on my phone, but I can't hear PC.
That's okay, as long as you can hear us, I'm good with it. So I'm glad you're here. So sorry about the technical difficulties. Wayne's in the Memphis Tiger Santa Claus hat. I'm in the Grand Valley State shirt. I'm Todd Corder, and that's JJ in the Georgia noggin, big flat bill lid and Georgia shirt. So, sir, thank you so much for coming on. You're our Michigan football historian. You sent some fantastic videos on Twitter. I've actually shared them with my wife. She is a Michigan fan, but she's as frustrated like anybody else this year. Tell us, first of all, how you got into that.
Yeah, I've been a big fan since I was a kid. And, I mean, it's going back 40-plus years. And I just kept recording all of these games and shows and TV interviews. And finally now I've digitized them. And I've got the mobile platforms to share them with everybody. And it's to the point now where the university has now even asked me for some of my information, for some of my
really.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fantastic. You know that's I saw what you did for Tim Brando today on Twitter. He's been on our show, and I tell you what, he was a fantastic guest. He previewed the college football season for us, and he stayed on like about an hour. It was unbelievable. And we really enjoyed our conversation with him. As you know, he's a top-notch broadcaster for Fox. And, I mean, he got to interview Bo. And I met Bo years ago just when I got out of college. So, that was a while ago. So I look old like any 50-something-year-old person. So, let's bounce over to the Michigan football situation. JJ and I just mentioned – I honestly have a gut feeling that I expect Harbaugh to sign a 3-year extension. I don't see him going anywhere. I think there's too much work to be done. I don't see him backing out. The university wanted to sign him before the coronavirus hit. He didn't want to do it because of the situation. Maybe they'll pay him as much money. Maybe they won't. I don't know. I just don't see him going to the NFL. He's got a 5-star quarterback coming in next year.
Yeah, it's so tough. I mean, he's such a competitor and he's such a gamer. I don't see him quitting. I don't see him leaving. There's unfinished business, right? And that's how he views it as well. And I think you can just kind of write off this year as just an abomination or an anomaly, not just for Michigan, but for other schools, right? I mean, you've seen a lot of schools are kind of like LSU. I get it, right? They lost their quarterback, but they're just nothing like they were last year, right? And Penn State, and you can go down the line. But, I truly think he's coming back. I truly think he wants to get it right, but he's got to make some changes.
Tell me what changes.
Well, I think you've got to make some just philosophy changes, whether it's your coordinators, whether it's your scheme. You've got to, if you're going to run, the RPO, then you got to be all in. I mean, it's so difficult. We're on the outside looking in, but it just seems like, there just needs to be more energy, more positive energy. And I think he can bring that. I think he's probably got a lot on his mind, right? He's trying to keep the kids healthy, and he's done a really good job up until last week. And, obviously not going to blame him for that, but I'm sure that had a lot to do with Thanksgiving and the kids getting back home with their parents and that. But, there's a lot on his mind. So I'm guessing he's coming back as well.
I mean,
go ahead.
I don't know. I just can't see him going to the NFL. I can't, it's just too much of a competitor in him. And Dr. Sapp, the local media there, they're killing him. They want him out. The national media wants him out. Everybody wants him out. And they're saying, well, he doesn't look as enthusiastic on the sidelines. I mean, they're just reaching all over for stuff about him. They don't go to the practices. They don't see it every day. And I just think they're reaching. And I think they just want him out so bad that they'll say and do anything to get him out.
Yeah, the media has been unrelenting. It's been really rough, and it's just so difficult to sit back and watch because, they think that they know everything, and to your point, they're not going to practice. They're not seeing the day-to-day stuff, and it's hard, right? And it's just the pressure of being a big-time college coach, and he's just a lightning rod. He's a lightning rod for all that criticism, right? Do you hear James Franklin getting reamed? I don't hear any of that kind of talk.
He's the Donald Trump of college football right now. They're just getting him in every direction.
Yeah, he's very polarizing, right? And
right.
But it's funny because I look back on John Cooper's tenure at Ohio State, and let me just ask you guys: do you realize how long he was there? How many years?
I do. JJ, you do too. I know you do.
Quite a while.
What's that?
It was a long time. I can't think of the years.
He was there like 10 years.
Yeah, 10 plus years, easy.
13 years.
Yep, 10 plus. Right.
I was going to say 14, but
you know how many times he beat Michigan? once or twice. That was it.
And that's shocking to me, right? They kept him for 13 years before they finally moved on. And here we are now with Michigan. They're like, we're out. We want to change after 6 years. I mean, and Michigan was in a bad state when Jim got there. And I'm not making excuses for him, right? But, and everybody seems to forget when Urban Meyer got to Ohio State, he actually got to recruit and assemble his staff before he even took over. He got an NCAA waiver. And I'm thinking, how can you let this guy build his staff and he's not even in there and he's out recruiting before he even took over? I mean, talk about getting a leg up on the competition, right? And, Harbaugh's been in the exact opposite situation. He had a crater to kind of take over. He had a lot of holes to fill. And listen, you can kind of take that out of the way, but yeah, there's a lot of work still that needs to be done. And listen, it's almost like the team just needs to catch a break. And I guess
they haven't caught one. Speaking of a break, if you don't mind me saying, sir, the quarterback position, when they came in the first year, they went from 5-7 to 10-3. Jake Rudock, the grad transfer from Iowa, came in, and as the season went along, he got better. They won, they beat Florida, and everybody said, okay, we're ready to go. What happened the next year? He had to start over with a quarterback, and he really hasn't had a quarterback play consistently, A, or B, stay healthy on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And yeah, we've all scrutinized that here as well. But here's my thing with Jim, right? Nobody knows the quarterback position better than him, right? And me in my professional life, right? I've got a team that works for me, and what I do is I want to set them up for success, right? So what I want to do is I want to try and download as much as I know about their jobs, because I've done their jobs type thing, right? And I want to make them successful. Well, and Jim's the same way, right? He's played quarterback at the highest level. Are you telling me he doesn't know how to play the position? He knows that. He's forgotten more than people know, all right? So, but he's trying to download all of that into these quarterbacks, and, they're kids, right? They can only,
take so much.
Yeah, they can only take in so much, right? And so then it almost seems like you can see them thinking as opposed to just reacting. But I'm sure he's thinking, I can't let you go on the field because you got to know about this read. You got to know about this check. You got to know about that defense. And dude, if you just download that on a teenage kid, his head's going to explode.
Well, JJ, Mark Richt was at Georgia for 15 years, and they decided to see you later.
And he was having success. And he was having success. I mean, he had a 10-win season on the way out the door. So it's incredible. It's unbelievable. Now, I want to comment. We have Dr. University of Michigan historian, folks. Our listeners, you can find them at DRSAP, the number 4, UM. You can find them, follow them. Good stuff. I want to ask you a question about this game this weekend. Minus 29.5 on the I was born in Grand Rapids. I have never seen that lopsided of a spread. Is that the largest in the history of the matchup?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. But, I just wrote a story this past year about the 1950 Snow Bowl, right? 70 years ago, Michigan was in kind of the same spot. They were this unheralded team going into Columbus with this big snowstorm, and nobody gave Michigan a chance, right? Because they already had a couple losses, and actually Ohio State didn't even need to play the game. They could have won the championship without playing, but they decided to play it, and Michigan blocks 2 punts, and they win that game 9-3, right? So and listen, this is why you got to play the game, right? I get it, right? But, stuff can happen, but who knows? Maybe Michigan will end up playing their 3rd quarterback of the year because of all the corona that's going on in Ann Arbor, right? I mean, but then again, right, you never know. Maybe this kid plays the game of his life. I mean, that's what happened with Dwayne Haskins. I was there a few years back, right, when J.T. Barrett got hurt. I'm thinking, got him right where we want him. Their quarterback's out, and then this kid comes in and starts dropping dimes. Like, this is the backup. He's better than the starter.
Hey, Joey Burrow left Ohio State, so whatever they're doing it right. And like speaking of a blizzard, when this game was first scheduled, JJ and I thought maybe they'll play the thing in a blizzard, but there's rain on Saturday. So maybe it'll be a slick turf and maybe turnovers will decide it. Who knows?
You mentioned the turnovers. Ohio State had a lot of center quarterback exchange misfortune last week. If it's raining, that could roll on down that road. Now, I want to mention about going back to Harbaugh and firing it. That could be a Tennessee situation waiting to happen. I don't want to see that happen with Michigan. That's my second team. Got to admit, born there. I don't want to see that happen. This matchup is our producer Wayne is picking Michigan straight up. And this is the type of season that it wouldn't surprise me that happened. Not at one.
I'll even give you a possible score.
Go ahead.
I think it's going to be Michigan win 9-14.
14-9. You know, they beat Ohio State one year 14-9 in an upset when Brian Greasy was the quarterback. You remember that, Dr. Sapp, in Columbus?
Yeah.
1996. Why not round off 2020 with a repeat?
And you know what? They got beat the same year by Alabama in the Outback Bowl the next game, and then after that, Brian Greasy, took off from there.
Yeah, but listen, remember, Ryan Day wants to hang 100, right? And, and they're going to do everything in their power to embarrass them. I'm telling you right now, there is no, that's what they're out for. And, then we here in Michigan are thinking, well, maybe Jim's going to play the four-corner offense. He's just going to slow the game down, limit the number of possessions, and then to your point, Wayne, maybe make it a 14-9 game, right? Keep it low scoring, and because he can't win a track meet with these guys. He just doesn't have the horses right now that Ohio State does. There's few teams that do, right?
Yeah.
Slow it down.
I was going to say the same thing.
But you mean run the play clock down to route one, and hopefully you can move the chains to get first downs, and that's an old school way of thinking of it. But Michigan, to me, they're going to have to make Ohio State turn the ball over, and they can't turn it all over at all in order for them to win. And the turnover margin has to be something stupid, like 5-0 or 4-0 for them to have a chance.
I think if Michigan has the game, if Michigan makes it a game to the fourth quarter, I think any college football team's got a shot. So that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Sapp, tell us you said you write a lot of articles on Michigan football, and where can the folks read them?
I typically contribute to a couple of the big blogs there in Michigan, MGO blog and mvictors.com. So I provide them a lot of content, historical stories. I just did a story a few years back on the quarterback wristband play sheet. That came back in 1985 with Harbaugh, and ironically enough, they're not using it this year. It's like the first time since '85.
Can you put those out on your Twitter feed, and we'll retweet them?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll put them out there.
A bunch of articles or where to go. We'll all of us will retweet them. I mean, no question about it.
Yeah, I did a story last year on the 50-year anniversary of the 1969 Ohio State game, and everything that went involved there, and it was just crazy. I talked to the old offensive coordinator Jerry Hanlon, and then Jim Young on the defensive side, and they were just telling me all these incredible stories. I mean, Jim Young was a master motivator along with Bo, right? You heard the stories. They put 50s on the helmets and 50s on the walls and in the shower walls and everything. But then Jim Young put up a sign across the door, so into the locker room where the guys literally had to bow down. And guess what it said on the sign? Are you going to bow down to Ohio State again this year? And then they have to crawl literally on their hands and knees to get into the locker room. And what was on the floor? The score of last year's game, which was 50-14 in 1968, right?
Right. Woody Hayes said, "Why did you go for two? Because I couldn't go for three."
Yeah. Well, that's been a little blown out of proportion. I mean, everybody in Columbus likes to run with it, but what really happened there was that there was a player, there was a personnel mix-up. They didn't have the right team on the field, so they didn't have the kicking team out there, so they just went for two, right? But that's Woody just playing. That was just Woody being Woody.
You know what? If you could, you put some Bob Ufer stuff up, the famous Michigan radio announcer, quite back in the 70s. You should if you put some more clips up there, we'll retweet those. My goodness. And we'll send those out there because one of my favorite clips was the dastardly deed of the Buckeyes. They'll pay for running out and knocking down the Go Blue banner. That was one of my favorite things. And of course, he's blowing the horn and all that other stuff. But my favorite call is when Johnny Wagner threw the ball to Anthony Carter to beat Indiana on the last play of the game. That was a mighty miraculous play.
1979 Indiana. But yeah, that's funny. You talk about the Ohio State, the banner incident in 1973. I put that together, right? I put the video and the audio together because what happened when they showed the game live on ABC in 1973, they cut the commercial when all of that happened. So when they came back, they just kind of showed you the replay of what happened. So you really didn't get to experience it live unless you're listening to Bob Ufer on the radio. So once I put the video together with the audio and you heard Ufer screaming and you saw the Ohio State players going after the banner, it was just incredible to the point where ESPN asked for it. So I made them a copy of that clip of Ufer's call. So that was pretty cool to see, And then one of my favorites is touchdown Dennis Franklin from that game, right? They go for it on touchdown.
Yeah. Hey, going to that point, and this is almost not even a sports question, but Dr. Sepp, what software do you use to edit all that audio and video?
Yeah, so I finally got a Mac, and I'm a MacBook Pro, so I just use iMovie and and I use basically Handbrake to pull everything down from my DVDs, right? So I've transferred all of my videotapes to DVDs, and I started counting my DVDs, and good Lord, guys, I got like 2,500 DVDs that I'm in the process of literally digitizing, right? So they're on DVD, it's great, right? But whenever now I want a clip, I got to insert the DVD, rip off the segment that I want, right? Import it, download it, convert it, sync it, upload it. It takes time.
Yeah, well,
it takes time, right? So,
I'm using the Premiere software from Adobe now, and I tell you, it's all time consuming no matter what you use.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, no matter what you do, I tell people it's like a 10-to-1 ratio, and it really is. And that's maybe on the conservative side. Like if you want a 1-minute clip, it's literally going to take me not just 1 minute to do. I mean, you got to find it, right? Luckily, I've got things cataloged, so I know where things at, but then you've got to, like I said, rip it, import it, edit it, upload it, sync it, convert it. Yeah, it's a lot of work, believe me.
Well, Dr. Sapp, unfortunately, we're out of time. We would love to spend more time with you. We'll have to have you back on and just use the phone number from now on. And I don't know what happened to the technical difficulties. We apologize if it was on our side.
It's all good. I look forward to it again. And maybe
keep in
next
touch
time
with me. I'll give you my contact information and all that too.
That sounds good. Great. Go Blue, guys.
Hey, go Blue. Hail to the victors, valiant. All right, that's Dr. Sapp there, Michigan football historian here on ATL Prime Sports. And JJ, we're not going to have time for the NFL. We've got about 5-6 minutes left on the show.
We got to talk a quick little segment. We'll do it.
Can we do that? Before we do that, though, I talked about Bob Ufer, the great Michigan announcer. Look, man, Georgia, they had a great announcer, Larry Munson. I don't know if he ever heard of him. We'll have to ask him when he comes back on next time about Larry.
Larry Munson, one of the greatest.
The
Lindsey Scott call is the greatest. One of the greatest calls in the history of play-by-play announcers. 1980, Lindsey Scott, screen blast from Buck Blue. I broke my chair. There's going to be some property damage tonight. All the way up in St. Simons, all the way up, down to Jacksonville, up to St. Simons. There's going to be some property destroyed tonight. That was a great call.
It was. And what about the one in Tennessee? The
hobnail boot in 2000.
The hobnail boot. I mess that up sometimes. Hobnail boot. I listened to that live when I was driving. when they played Tennessee. I actually was in the car when I heard that one, and that to me was a classic.
Classic call.
We just put a hobnail boot in him. That was the game-winning touchdown pass. Was that
Vernon Hayes? David Green to Vernon Hayes.
Yep, David Green. I was right. Okay. I couldn't remember who it was to, but I do remember it was David Green.
Great announcer.
Big dude, man.
But we real quick, we got to move to the NFL.
Yep.
There's just too many juicy stories. I mentioned one real quick. The Redskins, the Giants, and the whole NFC East is just absolutely absurd that they may host a playoff game. Well, they will.
One of them will.
Host a playoff game. That's one crazy story. And the other is very similar. Now, up until tonight, I was going to say, are we going to have an 0-16 and a 16-0? But that's not going to happen. But we still may have an 0-16.
Well, we're definitely having an 0-6. The Jets, to me, just clinched it right there. They were seconds away from a victory. And what do? Cover zero. If you don't know what cover zero is, that's basically a jailhouse blitz, leaving one-on-one on the corner and in a position where you should be rushing three, putting your best athletes back to knock down a Hail Mary.
Yep.
Instead, you gave it to them like it was on a video game, and the New York Jets did the New York Jets
You
thing.
literally basically went up there and called a field goal block in Madden. I mean, literally, if you're not trying to lose 16 games and you make that. Now, the defensive coordinator did lose his job because of it, but I don't think that was – I think someone told him to make that call, and he's the scapegoat. Another great story, the Minnesota Vikings, 1-5. Now 6-6, right back in the thick of things. They may miss the playoffs, but still unbelievable. This is just a 2020 season. Where
look at the Bears. They did the opposite.
Exactly. 5-1 have lost, 5 or 6 in a row now?
Well, hey, listen, on that Bears-Lions game, once again, a team pulled the reins back, and they let Matt Stafford make a comeback. And I cannot believe that people keep letting Stafford make comebacks.
You know what? There was a stat that he has the most. Gosh, I can't remember off the top of my
He's
head.
up there. He's right up there. It's 41. That's 41 now. Because we talked about it. It was 40 against the Falcons. I believe that's 41.
The Lions were dead to right. There was four minutes left. They had to go 98 yards. They did. With 98 yards, they got a turnover. They got the quarterback there, Trubisky, to fumble it on the 8. They recovered it. 2 plays later, they ran it in. Adrian Peterson did, and they held on. Actually, the Bears, before the 4th-and-1 play, the Bears threw the ball, the sideline pass on the far sideline. The guy caught it. He didn't know where he was. He went out of bounds 1 yard short of the first down. So on 4th down, they went for it and didn't get it. Nope. I'm like, the Bears are doing Bear things right now.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, they just – and Darrell Bevel
Did the Falcons move to Chicago?
What's that?
Did the Falcons move to Chicago?
No, well, the Falcons played their hearts out. Let's transition that real quick. You know, they can't run the ball. Todd Gurley's only averaged 2.61 yards per carry since Game 6 this season. Guys, you can't run it. You're in trouble in this league. I think you've got to be able to run it. Pittsburgh couldn't run it tonight against Washington.
You mentioned it. They the Saints outrushed Atlanta 207 to right at like 75, 80 yards. That doesn't win you NFL ball games. Pretty much crushed all hopes of playoffs for the Atlanta Falcons. Sure, they're mathematically not eliminated, but they are. They can't win.
You can
put a fork in. Like I said, mathematically, somehow miraculously, they're still alive, but they won't be.
Right. They're done. They're 2 games back with 4 to play, and they got a slew full of teams above them. And I think Morris is not going to be the head coach.
I don't think they'll win another game the rest of the year.
Well, you look at that. They can beat the Chargers.
They could, but that's on the road. It's tough.
And they play Tampa twice, 1 at home, 1 on the road, and guess where they go to? Kansas City. They're in big trouble there. So Wayne, let's go ahead. We got to have to transition it. Wayne, let's do the pick 6. You got it in front of you?
I do not have it in front of me.
JJ,
I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and start us off with the pick six. I got it right here.
All right.
Real quick, it's the game. Michigan, Ohio State. We know the point spread. Does Ohio State cover that 29 and a hook, folks?
Yes. Unfortunately,
I think they do too.
Yes.
No. I'm picking Michigan. I'm picking Michigan to
I
win.
love it. I love it. All right, so we got two
Well, wait, JJ, what did you pick? I didn't hear it.
I'm taking the Buckeyes. I think they'll cover that 30 points.
They'll cover too.
UNC number 17 on the road, Miami, a pretty big top 20 matchup. Miami's 8-1. They're 3.5-point favorites. Give me the Canes at home.
Yeah, definitely. The U.
Cane for me.
Yeah.
Just clean sweep on the Canes. Wisconsin 2-2 at number 19. Iowa 5-2. Iowa's a 1.5 favorite. I like the Hawkeyes at home.
Definitely.
As Keith Jackson would say, I like the Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
Hawkeyes. And we got a big one. Cincinnati, Tulsa, 12.5-point favorites. The Bearcats are. This one is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa's 6-1. Bearcats are unbeaten. I am going to call the upset. I think Tulsa is going to upset Cincinnati this weekend and ruin Cincinnati's hopes and get Coastal Carolina into the New Year's Six.
Golly. You know what? You need to go take a dip in the ocean right now.
Yeah.
Coastal Carolina.
Folks, I'm going out on a limb. I know it's probably wrong, but I really want the Chanticleers in the New Year's Six. I just love the way they play.
Well, I mean, I can understand that. What about you, Wayne?
Well, I'll take Cincinnati, but they ain't going to cover.
What's the point differential?
12.5. Pretty big. Pretty big.
12.5 on the
12.5 on the road.
Yeah.
You know what? They need style points. They need them desperately.
They do.
So I'll say they will cover, and I'm probably wrong, but what the heck? I'm going to do it.
I love it. I love it. And our only we'll do two quick NFL games. Falcons at Chargers. Falcons open up as a 2.5-point favorites. I'm taking the Chargers. I like Justin Herbert. I think they'll get the job done.
Not the way the San Diego LA Chargers played last. I did San Diego on purpose.
I do it too.
No, give me the Falcons. I think the Falcons. What's the point spread?
2.5 in favor of Atlanta.
No, I think the Falcons cover. What about you, Wayne?
Yeah, Falcons to cover.
Falcons cover. I'm taking the Chargers. I'm taking the Bulls.
I'm not doing that again.
I'm
big one for that. I think they'll win this time.
Got a big one on Monday night. Ravens-Browns. I told you the Browns would make the playoffs. I think the Ravens get this game, though. They need it. They're in deep need of a W. Ravens get this one on the road.
The Ravens are in deep doo-doo, and they play the Cowboys tomorrow, who are in deep doo-doo because if Dallas wins, they would be 4-8 and be one game out behind Washington and the Giants. What a division, but I don't know. The Ravens are not playing well right now. I'll take Cleveland.
Cleveland?
Yeah. No,
Yep.
I'm
Cleveland rocks.
I'm taking Cleveland for little Tommy Bukovac.
How many points are they favored by, JJ? I'm sorry.
The Baltimore Ravens are 1-point favorites in that game right now.
I'll take Cleveland. I thought we only done 5 games. Is that right?
We did 4 college: Michigan, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Tulsa games.
I can't count the 6.
Falcons, Chargers, Ravens, Browns. That completes our pick 6, folks.
Yeah.
I will
what
close
about Georgia?
We didn't do it. I didn't put them in there. I didn't know if the game was going to be played. It was a postponed game, so it wasn't originally supposed to be set here. I kind of went.
You know what? I don't care what the line is. Give me they'll beat Missouri and cover.
Yeah,
I think they'll beat Missouri and cover. I couldn't find a line on the game. That's why I didn't pick it this week. But I would take the Dogs to cover. Last time they were 20-something point favorites. I don't think it'll be that high this game.
Wayne, what about Tigers?
Well, I've got a basketball game tomorrow, and it's the first game that my son is going to be playing in the pep band at the basketball game.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah. And those basketball games are really weird because there's nobody on the court except the teams and a few of the reporters, and the rest of the reporters are up in the stands. But the weird thing is there's nobody to chase the balls that go out of bounds, and so the players have to go run those balls down.
Wayne, you know what? You've been to the Memphis games this season. Tell me, tell the audience about the atmosphere overall. You're
Well,
actually
it's-
going to the games.
Yeah, it's a lot quieter, but you got to be careful what you yell at the ref because there's a chance that ref might actually hear you.
Really?
And
Do you
yeah,
have to wear
even from
masks
where my
there,
seats
even
are.
though is
Yeah, you
anybody
have-
near you when you sit at the game?
About the closest people are about 12, maybe 15 feet away.
Wow. Yeah. I guess
It's-
they would.
it's
You need
2020.
experience.
Yeah.
I know you put the experience on your Twitter feed. So
Yeah.
But guys, we're out of time. Maybe we'll do a
I know.
show before the end. Go ahead.
One closing thought, folks. Your 2024 Olympic Games are going to include surfing. It's going to include sport climbing. It's going to include breakdancing. That's
No,
right,
come
folks.
on,
The
man.
Olympic breakdancing will be in your 2024 Olympics. I'm signing up tomorrow. Team USA breakdancing.
Yeah. Hey, maybe
It's
we'll
one of
pop.
these. Happy holidays. Happy New Year, folks. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Yeah. Go ahead and tell us while you're at it. Finish your closing line.
Get you one.
All right.
Wayne, JJ, you guys have a great holiday. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I'm sure we'll communicate before then. We may do another show before then. I know we can't do one next week. We're
Right.
all busy, so maybe we'll grab one late. I don't know. Maybe we'll pick a weekend day or something to get
Okay.
together. I'll be free after Saturday when my wife leaves town, and then I'll go up to Pennsylvania to see her for Christmas. So.
All right.
Yeah, it's been an unusual year, guys, and I really enjoyed tonight's show. Really apologize for the technical difficulties with Dr. Sapp, but we were able to get him on and work it out, and it's so 2020.
Yep.
Exactly.
Oh.
We'll take it up to 2020, folks.
Right. All right. For myself, TC, for JJ on the other side of the ATL, for Wayne in Memphis. Guys, have a great evening and have a great holiday.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Happy New Year. Get you one.